he must also understand, and people like him must understand, that of the 50-odd years of self-government, the ruling party, the present ruling party, has dominated the life of this country over 40-odd years of that. So that it is not a single or simple change in government for a very short period of time that is to be held responsible.
But Mr. Myers, you also seem to be admitting that the government has spent money in some cases on programs that are necessary. They said in the parliament the other day that the government assisted tuition, the education subsidies, transport, the PTSC fleet is now larger than it has ever been, other social programs, increase in pensions, the transfer card, otherwise known as the TT card. There is a lot that they can point to and say, we have done this to make life easier.
Yes, yes. I mean, and I don't quarrel with that. But for example, let's say the TT card, for example, that is an important part of an important social safety net. But to the extent that they have to add to that, it is as a result of the high inflationary period that we have been living in, which was as a result of government fiscal policy and spending. So that the cost of living kept rising. You know the situation with food prices in this country. You know the situation of agriculture in this country. So that even where you have these subsidies, a lot of it, in terms of the overall income of the country, these monies keep going out all the time. So it is not staying within the country and circulating and so on. Now, let us take, for example, there is a lot, they say a lot, they talk a lot about the unemployment level in this country, that the unemployment level is 5% and that is considered full employment and so on. But that unemployment level is in many ways false. I say false because many of these jobs are just not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And instead of doing proper training programs, okay, where people are properly trained and allowed to move out on their own and become their own economic agents, they are kept at a certain level that doesn't allow the full flowering of their independence. And we have to develop an economy which brings people to that situation where they become, more not merely self-motivated, but able to stand on their own.
We are going to take a quick call. So those who are holding on the phone first, we will get to you on the line very shortly. But before we go to the break, I just wanted to ask you about being carried into the parliament by 3 police officers. One newspaper reported that the education minister came and took a bundle of your documents as well and carried them up the steps for you. You said it was an indignity to be carried in like that. Were you appeased by the fact that the police officers seemed to have acted in a helpful manner, considering your experience on Friday?
Well, I suppose it can be described as kicks and kisses. On the Friday some kicks and on Monday some kisses. I want to commend the police officers in the parliament, at the level of the parliament. I want to commend the clerk and the speaker of the house for arranging for me to come in there, even though, I mean, I view it as a very humiliating part of my life and part of, the country's life, to have to be lifted up all these flights of stairs to go into the parliament. I don't think anybody having any sense of pride or dignity or who are able to understand that this is, a gross violation of your rights, to be able to not be able to access your parliament in a proper manner. Now, as I said, at some point, I knew there was a lift in another section of the building, and I was told, frankly, that that was for the use of members, and we couldn't use that. Now, there's another side of the story which indicates that the section of the building that it's in we would not have been able to get to the public gallery. We're
going to return to the issue of the elevator. When we come back, we're going to have to take a very quick break. We'll be right back after that. And welcome back to Gayelle, the channel, and Cock-a-doodle-doo. Mr. Myers, you were mentioning that there really and truly is no form of elevator access to the public gallery unless you wend your ways through some offices from another part of the building. There's a question as to whether anybody in a wheelchair can use that elevator or if it's just for members. Do you think it's about time that there be some sort of wheelchair access to the public gallery?
Well, of course, I think all our public buildings should be accessible to any member of the public, particularly, I mean, those people having some form of disabilities. Now, I am conscious of the fact that for the greater part of the existence of the society, you know, the question of disability, people with disabilities, has been largely invisible. They have had no voice. There was, if you will, more or less, they were treated as charity cases. The consciousness, you know, has changed considerably, but the governmental response has simply not been there. I mean, let's take, for example, you would have known, despite all the work that someone like George Daniel would have done, the Powder Magazine situation where there are some disabled people living in that area, they have been calling for elevators to be able to get across the crosswalk,
to use the
walkover and so on. I understand that elevators are in place but are not working. Now, there would be situations where several crossovers would need that sort of, would need lifts and so on. There is a national policy with respect to disabilities or disabled people. That policy was accepted by the present government, but how is it implemented? A place like the Parliament, not even some temporary access or is made available. What does it mean, for example, for someone, for a citizen of this country who elects the Parliament to be told that lift is for the members of Parliament? What does that say to you about our mentality?
Would you return to the Parliament considering your experience on Monday?
In what capacity?
Would you return to the Parliament as a member of the public?
Not unless it is something that I view as grossly offensive to me.
And beyond that, would you return to the Parliament? Would you seek political office again? You seem to have been very vocal in recent times. You've been making your voice heard through the newspapers. You were obviously dissatisfied with a lot that you see going on. Would you seek public office?
I would, on certain terms. I have a particular interest and drive to what I call deepen the democracy of this country. As far as I am concerned, our democracy has been under house arrest for a very long time. So that I am interested in seeing a new political architecture developed in the country. One in which, for example, there is very strong local government. One in which our electoral process is changed so that we could have a much more representative parliament. Our parliament from the beginning till now has not been representative of the majority opinion in the country. And we must design a political architecture and an electoral system that gives us that.
I'm going to ask you your opinion on constitutional reform when we come back, but I just want to take a quick call here. Hi, morning, caller.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Morning.